I always talk about overthinking. Overthinking is pretty much what I share on my wall and what I talk about all the time. And one of the reasons I talk about it is because I used to be a serial overthinker. I still overthink a lot of stuff, but I've changed it from it being an issue to embracing it. So now I actually embrace my overthinking. I look at it, I wonder where it comes from. I think about, okay, so I'm overthinking this situation, but why am I overthinking that? How can I change that? What can I do to embrace that rather than running away from it? And I find when you embrace things that you worry about and things you think about, you then start to treat it as a friend. So rather than my overthinking being an enemy to me, I now create it as a friend of mine. So I embrace it. So I treat it as a friend. So I'm like, I'm overthinking this, and it's not an enemy. It's not something that is going to cause me problems. I need to embrace it. So how can I embrace it? So say, for example, this is one of the things I used to really worry about. I used to worry about going places and asking for things. But instead of, I wouldn't even think about where that come from. I would just run a mile. I'd be like, oh, I can't do that, I can't do that, I can't do that. And I'd overthink it. But now what I do is I take a deep breath and I say to myself, I'm just going to do it anyway. I'm just going to do it anyway. So rather than worrying about it, I take a deep breath and I go, I'm going to embrace this. I'm going to embrace this fear and I'm going to do it. And so many things, like the more you embrace fear and the more you do it, the easier it gets. And I'm not just saying that things, because it's quite a common thing. People do overthink. Like, I don't think like that anymore, but there are people that will worry about things like ordering a drink from a bar, because I used to do that. And there are people that are worrying about certain things, but people have different things that they worry about. Like, you can be very confident at one thing and then very non-confident at another thing. So it might be you don't want to go and ask for a drink at a bar, but then someone else might be really good at that, but you might be really good at drawing and doing art. So there's like things that people, sometimes we worry about something and we think that that thing that we worry about is really like, it's up there. It's like, why are we worrying about that? There must be something wrong with me because I'm worrying about that. But what you find is people have different things that they worry about, and we're all good at one thing that other people aren't good at. So some people are good at drawing, some people are good at singing, some people are good at going to the bar and asking for a drink, some people are good in restaurants. And it's just finding, like, knowing that people have things that they're not very good at. You're not all good at one thing. So don't beat yourself up if there's something that you worry about and that you're insecure about and that you're not sure about doing, because there's all people have loads of things that they can't do. Like, I used to ride a motorbike and people are like, oh my gosh, how, I can't imagine you riding a motorbike, because that's the perceived opinion that they had of me. They were like, someone like you wouldn't ride a motorbike. But why wouldn't someone like me ride a motorbike? Like, where has that come from? Like, but I was quite confident doing that, but then someone else wouldn't be confident doing that. So it's about finding something that you have the confidence for and that you believe in, and then saying, well, actually, I'm confident that that one thing, this might not be the best thing I'm good at, but I can do it. Like, there's nothing holding you back in life. The only thing that's holding you back in your life is your own mind and your own brain. And like I said, there are things that you don't do because, like, they're just the wrong things to do. Like, there are things that people don't do because they're not the things, that's not how people behave. But then there are things that people will do just generally, and they do one thing or they do the other, and then you sit there and you think, why can't I do that? What's wrong with me? But then you might have something that you're really good at that they look at you and they think, why can she do that and I can't do that? So it's just like not beating yourself up over one thing that you're not good at or you can't do or you're worrying about, because there's someone out there that is worrying about things that you can do and things that you are good at. And just accept sometimes there's things you just can't do, and it really doesn't matter, and we don't need to overthink it. We just need to think, okay, that's part of me. Like, here's one example. I have dyslexia. So I didn't know this for a long time. I wasn't diagnosed until I was 19, till I was in the workplace. And as soon as I was diagnosed, I was having a conversation with someone about this the other day, and as soon as I got diagnosed with dyslexia, things started to make sense, things started fitting into place. I was having these like, so that's why I do that, that's why this happens, that's why that happens. But until I knew that that was a problem and that was something in my life, like until I knew I had dyslexia and that it was affecting me, until that become part of me, I didn't know that there was a reason why I was behaving in certain ways and why certain things were happening. So it's just about, sometimes when you embrace something or you find out the reason why and you look into it and you look a bit deeper and you find out where it comes from and you find out why it's there, that's when we start work, like that's when the work can start being done. So you need to find, I've spoke about this before in other lives, is once you find something that's going on and you start embracing it and you start looking into it and you start breaking it down and looking at where that comes from. Like for example, when I got diagnosed with having dyslexia, all of a sudden it was like when I was writing and my words were getting mixed up, I was like, that's not my fault, that's the dyslexia right there. And it helped. And overnight, it felt like overnight my writing became better, other things became better, because I knew what the issue was. And because I knew what the issue was and I could work on it, this is when things started to change. So that's what I do. I help you find the things that are holding you back and limiting you in life, and we find it, we break it down, and we work on it, and we find out where it's come from, why it's come from there, what can you change. And the only thing I can associate this with is like when I found out I had dyslexia, or when you find out like you've got an illness and you find out what the illness is. Until you find out what the illness is and where it's coming from, it's hard for you to know what steps to take to make it better, to improve it, and to grow and go forward. So this is what I'm talking about here. So overthinking